Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another episode of WhickTV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, I hope you all have had a wonderful weekend because we have a week of content in store for you, and we're just going to start it off with something that came to my attention through the reading of a Guardian article. Um, in this war, since October 7th, reportedly, Israel has been utilizing AI in order to process and collate data to help in generating strike targets for military actions. This has come on under criticism. Some of the critics have referred to it as an assassination factory based on the amount of targets they have been able to generate using this system as opposed to their old system. So it made me curious. Given that we are moving into a future that AI will be a part of, what are some other concerns we might have of AI in the military? Is it actually a good thing? Is it going to make us safer in the end? Or is it a dystopian nightmare, much like the movie Terminator, where Skynet will end us all? I have brought a group of the wisest individuals and Samantha that I have been able to get. And I want to give them each a chance to introduce themselves and then to give their opening thoughts on the topic. And we're going to start in the reverse order, right? And so we're going to start with Theo, and then we're going to move, and Samantha's going to end us off. So Theo, open her up. AI and warfare. Give us your opening thoughts.
All right. Well, I would say AI generally it's a tool, and just like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. But my concern would be in kind of how AI is escalating. It reminds me a lot of like I think how we invented nukes, and kind of what comes along with that, of the concerns of mutually assured destruction. Like at what point do these machines, kind of start working on their own? I think a lot of the discussion boils down to how comfortable are we with these machines being autonomous? Because I think a lot of people are okay as long as a human goes in and confirms the decision these machines are making. That would be my take on it. I think we should probably limit it to about there.
Okay, thanks, and we'll get into it as we go. Tuna Chip.
Hey, so when I saw this article, the first thing it reminded me of, maybe what was it, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this article was swimming around another one talking about how quote unquote drone strikes queer warfare. It's just one of these constant things that's happening inside of the conversation of like, what is war meant to be? What is it not meant to be? As we go through, we used to do the pre-guerrilla. We got into the guerrilla that was considered shameless, and it was like, how can the killing be chosen by somebody other than a general? We can't trust this. As it got handed on to the common soldier. Then it was drone strikes, getting the soldiers away from the war zone. And I just keep thinking about how the moment tends to justify violence a little bit more because you're under threat of death. But you're not under threat of death through a drone strike. You're not under threat of death when you're on the other side of a barrier sending a bunch of ballistics, from a computer screen. That's the thing I think we find the most insulting, is the human involvement doesn't feel morally justified. And it might actually be good that these changes are happening because it's going to make us like face the raw brutality of war, which is that it isn't justified. There's not really a way to make it feel more justified. It's just past forms of war are more normalized. So I think that people are, if anybody thinks this is worse, it's still killing. And the killing that an Israeli computer versus a bunch of Israeli soldiers on the ground, the murders that they would do, I don't actually think that it's that different in terms of its proportion. We've heard multiple times that a lot of the Israeli soldiers, they're out of touch too. The killing that they would do, a lot of the, what did they say? The decisions that are made before this AI was implemented, some people were a little bit more trigger happy, a little bit more okay with collateral damage than others. The partiality's been removed and given to this robot, but I don't think that the robots are less or more inhumane than humanity. That's it.
Okay, we'll get into it as we go. Next up, Goat, please.
Hello, my name is 𝕍𝖎𝖙. Well, basically, I want to approach this subject from the other side, not from the attack side, but from the defense side. This is the first time in history that anti-tank missiles, like tanks have a weapon like they have a defense against anti-tank missiles. Okay, so they have an AI, like the Israeli army has an AI system that locks in anti-tank missiles and destroys them before they hit the tank. So imagine yourself that it's very easy to die in a tank in battle, and now it's like we made it more difficult to die in a tank. It's amazing, and the AI that we have in our hands is an amazing tool for progress in every. It's like it's like tripling, quadrupling the amount of people that have these positions in the army. It's like it's working for them. It's like extra soldiers, but like doing the same job. It's for example the AI that we're using for targeting is doing the job. Okay, I'll actually quote 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜, who was the what's it called? Never mind. In like head of military, Ramatkal. He said we used to have 50. We used to generate 50 targets each year. Today we generate 100 targets a day. Okay, so first of all, it also eliminates some human error. Okay, it also adds like lots of analysis that people like regular soldiers can't do. And anyways, it assists in so many defenses against cyber attacks, and it's just there's a lot. Okay, but I generally think that AI is great. Okay, although it has its own risks. Okay, because it's like very like in comparison to nukes, it's very it's very accessible. You do not need physicists and uranium to use it. You just need people who know how to code, and that's that there are a lot of these people. So it makes like it makes terror groups and small organizations, militias, like acquire this very powerful weapon, just like that, which is insanely dangerous.
Okay, well, thanks, and we'll get into it as we go. Next up, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜.
Hi, I'm 𝕾𝖍𝖎🔂🔂. Okay, cool. I'm unmuted. Sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse. I'm not feeling super well, but I've done a ton of research on this subject, and this is probably the most nuanced subject that I've ever been asked to talk about. I think it's really easy to just sort of look at how the AI being implemented in this specific instance in the Middle Eastern region. I don't know which one I'm supposed to call it. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm totally uninformed on that. But apparently the AI had some trouble properly identifying and executing targets without causing a lot of civilian casualties. Ideally, AI systems would be able to reduce casualties of civilians. But there's even when it's at its best, it brings along with it a ton of other really bad things that we don't want. My primary concern is that as we get more and more used to using AI to enhance our ability to be efficient at war, killing who we want to kill and not who we don't want to kill, we'll start to see these same kinds of AI systems being used for policing at home. And when it's being done at home, then we're going to see an increase in surveillance. We're going to see things like computer systems monitoring our data to try to predict crime and things like that. And people that are able to use these kinds of technologies typically don't say, "Oh, well, we don't want to use it here. We don't want to increase our power by using it here." But that's one part of it. There's also the arms race that if we continue to use AI in warfare like this, it's going to be who can get the best AI. And while that's happening too, when we're using these systems, they're super susceptible to cyber attacks. So while you're using the system to try to make sure that you're hitting your targets and only your targets, somebody else can just come in and make sure that your weapons are really their weapons instead. There's a ton of stuff. I'm not gonna go through all of my notes here about all the pros and cons of it, but there's a lot of nuance to this, and I'll just try to give my perspectives on the things that other people bring up, because I could just stand here and give a lecture about it.
Well, no
But
lectures
also, thank
today.
you for having me, Wick.
No problem. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate it, and we'll get into it as we go. Samantha, please.
Okay, so mine's gonna be short and sweet. One, I don't care about slippery slope arguments because we already have nukes, which is gonna be like the biggest net harm we could do to people. AI integration is actually a net positive for this because it can help us differentiate targets and minimize the amount of collateral damage or civilian casualties. And we're pretty far out from like completely autonomous things. And for the most part, people are just fucking molding. Also, data integration isn't necessarily AI. So let's fight about it.
Okay, let's fight about it indeed. Let's start, I guess, with the quote that was brought up by Goat. Israel used to have be able to generate 50 targets a year using the non-AI methods that they were doing. Integrating AI into generating these targets has allowed them to speed up that process to 100 a day. Why is this anything but a disaster? Again, we can look at the numbers. If we look at the casualty rate in Gaza right now, it is astronomically higher than the other conflicts because, in part, they are able to generate these targets so quickly and so efficiently. Why is this something we should be going for, gang?
Is this really necessarily bad, or is it just condensing what's something that's normally going to be very prolonged into a much shorter span? If these targets are going to be viable targets, aren't they going to be targets no matter what, and they're just doing it quicker?
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Most of these is like with the data integration. Most of this is like data that we already have, and we're using AI through the data integration to kind of scrub through a bunch of data faster than humans can do it. Because you're gonna have a bunch of analysts, which are like, if anybody's been in the military, that's like an E4 or below. So they're literally a retard at one of the lowest pay grades, trying to get data that affects people's lives. So it's actually better than having analysts having like something that can calculate probabilities on a very, very quick scale. We're using AI right now with data integration. It's not AI. We're using AI to look over data that we already have, such as like video feeds from surveillance drones, such as like actual intel reports that we're getting from like higher level intel. And all it is doing is scrubbing the data. It's not like just, like, hey, where is Bashar al-Assad? And then he's like, he's in this house. Go fucking nuke it. Like,
Samantha,
shut the fuck. I'm talking. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. This is not your Rosa
Be a
Parks
polite
moment.
person. Be a polite person, or
No.
fucking kill yourself.
No.
I don't want to deal with this kind of
Okay,
aggression.
enough.
We're not
If you invoke
asking
Rosa
Chat
Parks
GPT.
to-
Okay, we don't need to go. We don't need to go this hard, this early.
We're not
Samantha,
asking
finish your point, and then
ChatGPT.
Tuna, you can respond.
We're not asking Chat GPT to fucking find this person so we can fucking nuke him. Like, that's not what like is going on. We're not setting out autonomous things to just go kick people. We're having AI go over data that we already have.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Instead of lone soldiers that might miss so much information in these analyses.
Okay, Tuna, go ahead.
What makes the more efficient going through of information a net benefit? You're saying this as if that's good, but isn't the war machine chugging at a faster rate if it's killing more innocents, or just purely killing more people? How do we just assume that that is by default a good thing? My sense is that's a bad thing.
Or not. we have no proof whether or not, but like the probability is that we can use data and AI to our advantage, and like through AI parsing through data to give us probabilities. It's really good at probabilities. So if it gives us high enough probabilities, that would be a large amount of like collateral damage or civilian casualties, we can actually take that target and move it down the list and like find a more favorable action that we can do. So it can give you like a list of options that you could do if like in certain circumstances. So it's not always just like, oh my God, it's spitting out all these targets, we have to bomb them now. There's still a person making a decision whether or not to like commit an action based off of the reports they're getting from the data scrubbing from the AI.
I'm not claiming otherwise. What I'm saying is that by expediting any part of the process, removing people from any part of the process, even data scrubbing, you are making it go faster. You are enabling it.
Which is good. So
I don't believe
when you don't do things fast, right? People can move. Bigger plans can be done on their side. So like when you're in a war, this isn't like a fucking kumbaya thing. This is war. Like this, anybody who's like, oh my God, this is bad. You're fighting a fucking war. You want to do things quickly. You want to kill the enemy quickly so that they either lose morale or they all fucking die out. So like sitting here crying over doing it faster is fucking antithetical to war, and it's retarded.
You're missing a clear part of what. This is not the fucking stones and sticks age of war. You are getting money from the United Nations, and if you don't...
If anybody here knows about fighting war, it's me. You're preaching to the fucking choir.
Maybe I can just ask for a clarifying question about like the question that we're being asked. When you say disaster, what is the objective goal here? Because from my understanding, I kind of understand what Samantha's saying, because for me, we're presuming that there's a war happening. This is a war, and as there being a war, the objective from either side is to win this war. They're like, war, people are going to die. So like a disaster is just like humanitarian, like war is hell. So
to be clear,
war is going to be worse
than
war would be otherwise.
When I say disaster, what I mean is humanitarian disaster, right? And so the risk here is the amount of civilian casualties will rise in proportion to the speed that is being done. The other risks are that people will be able to justify strikes they normally would not, because they can tell themselves, the AI told me to do it. Right, basically.
Yeah.
The AI.
That's not the potential of what's happening, because they're just going to pull data. So like the people that actually call shots, fire team leaders, whatnot, right? They still have to make that final call based off of what we call actionable intelligence.
Yes,
right?
but okay. the trick is they will what they will do is they will say, well, I am now much more certain of this intelligence because of its AI, and so they will look less into it. They will consider it. This is the fear, that they will consider it less, that they will simply offload the double checking that they would normally do, and then just offload that and say, you know what, the machines are just right. And
but here's the thing: when it comes
the
to
other
this
side
machine,
of it is too, they can dodge accountability for mistakes as well.
Well, this is all irrelevant, right? Because when you look at like how you set it up to data, because it depends on how you're programmed, what data set you're feeding it, right? So if you're feeding a data set and wanting the metrics to kick out to be like, we want to minimize civilian casualties, we want to minimize collateral damage, we like to keep our blah 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 under this percentage, and then have it kick for that metric, and it would tell you not to do things because it goes above that metric, or would tell you yes to do things. So it depends on the data that you're feeding it, what you're telling it to look for. It's not just like some sentient being that's saying kill this. And it doesn't matter how many people are in the air, just fucking nuke it, right?
We don't think that, though.
You have to give it a data set and parameters.
Nobody is coming from that angle. No one's coming from that angle.
Yeah, point by saying it's irrelevant, not explaining why it is.
Yeah, but the thing is,
once Samantha, once you're done,
it can make more people die because of like how rapidly it's going. It could also make less civilian casualties and less collateral damage die because you input the fucking parameters that you wanted to fucking like meet. So then you could fucking hold accountability, be like, hey, you typed in these fucking parameters, and this fucking many like innocents died, you fucking prick. And then you just change who's doing the fucking parameters on the next one. Like it all depends on what you're asking it to do and the metrics and the parameters that you're setting it up for.
Well, I mean, I think that the problem here is that no one's really talking about like what the data we're feeding into this AI is. Like the AI can say, this has a high probability of low civilian casualties or whatever based off of previous strikes. But look at the results. I mean, Gaza is like the deadliest war in 20-something years for journalists. It's an insane number of civilian casualties, and so I mean, like, look at the results here. I don't think that
I wouldn't blame the AI, just the AI for that.
Well, I know, but like, what data are we feeding into it? Because if they're feeding,
What
past
data are you
Israeli strikes,
what
if they're feeding
like
past Israeli
based
strikes
on
into
what
this
do you
AI,
know if
Hold on,
based on what do you know
Go,
if it's
stop.
killing that
Stop.
many
Let Theo
people?
finish. I want Theo to finish. Theo doesn't have a
that
camera,
was
so
that was
he's...
more or less my point.
Oh, okay.
I just said, like,
Samantha
Sure.
what data
seems
are
to
they
be
feeding
living
into
in a
it?
world where the advance is both way more advanced and way further behind simultaneously. When she's
Yeah.
like throwing out these arguments, which is really bizarre. Like, we're not doing the thing, we're not applying the kinds of strategies with the AI that you're suggesting, because we're not really there yet with it. Not only that, too, we can say that it's going to be like you could do all these things with it that you're suggesting, but you're also ignoring the AI has like algorithmic biases and stuff, and without like
I addressed
significant
that by
human
saying
insight.
it depends on the data set you feed it, like who's making it, what the parameters are, what the metrics are it's looking for. I've already addressed that.
Okay, sure. If you're just going to be super vague and just say like it can just go the
It's
way
not
that
vague.
I want
That's how
it to,
AI works. You have to have a base like model for it to run off of. So depending on that model, right? Like, and of course it's gonna have a fucking bias. It's on a side that wants to win a war. Are
Samantha?
you fucking actually
That's not the kind of
retarded?
bias that
Or
I'm
is it
talking
just
Samantha.
about.
Samantha,
No, that
how do you
What?
feel about nuclear weapons? Their
We have them
existence.
as a deterrent.
No. How do you feel about their existence? If you were God, would you snap them out of existence?
No.
Okay. Most people do not like the
Why not?
idea. No, most people don't like the idea of nukes because we recognize the human error, which can't be removed, which you're agreeing with. The human error having that much influence, one human error having that much influence is a disaster. So when I think of any expediting of the decision apparatus of war, I am saying to myself, what does this do towards power? What does it do towards human error? And currently, it seems as if this, much like the war machine has always been, the bigger it is, the more that it takes in sort of like random threads of information and then input something that is very stern, very calculated and very objective feeling. Nobody feels as responsible for it. So that means that everybody is saying, as one would say of the gas chamber, I was simply following orders, I was simply following protocol. And then you have to look back at the fucking bodies and say, you know what, now that I've lost, at the time, all I was trying to do was win the war. This is not a condition where these don't matter.
The situation?
When was that not the situation? When it was powder and fucking lead. There's a question really, really quick. Anybody that thinks that the enemy should have this AI technology, no one would say yes. They would say, no, we would like them to be as inefficient. Everyone would say, yes, I would like to have it. I'm asking the question,
if I may,
do we want the world to fucking have it?
If I may.
Obviously not.
Tuna, but that is a question. Your enemies might very well develop this. We could all agree, right? We could all sign some accord, right? The UN could make a resolution saying no one will use AI in warfare anymore. All that will do.
I think there are actually resolutions and protocols for that.
There might be that I'm not aware of. That's perfectly possible. But the problem with that is whatever country decides to ignore that and go ahead with this AI development in warfare anyway is going to have such an astronomical advantage over those who do not that it becomes impossible not to engage with. Does that make sense? It's like if nukes are going to exist, I want everyone to have nukes.
Well, let me ask a quick question. Does that make sense? Why ought a government, representing their people, make a decision to put their citizens at more risk for an opponent?
Because they're beholden to a wartime, crime agreement that, the international, web of capital that funds their ability to go to war is attached to.
That sounds like the most cuck fucking leftist fucking dog shit I've heard in a while.
Is it cuck leftist dog shit?
Here's the deal, right? People want to bitch about the ICC, right? But you have to sign up for the ICC. People want to bitch about like different weapons being used in war as a war crime, like when multiple nations that use them haven't signed the agreement. So let's bring up Israel-Palestine. Do you think that like Palestine, or sorry, not even Palestine, let's bring up specifically Hamas. Do you think they give a shit about international law, regulations on how to kill people, and shit like that? Do you think they're following fucking rules based off some honor fucking system? Exactly. Why should other people that are fighting a terrorist group? Because here's the deal: if we all make a gentleman's agreement not to use it, hold on. If we all make a gentleman's agreement to not use these weapons, you know who's still going to be using them? Terrorists. Yeah.
Do you think that it's okay to rape terrorists?
I will answer your question when you answer mine.
That's an unrelated question.
It's relevant. It's a related question. If the terms of service between two different people, if you and me don't have an agreement, then I'm allowed to do whatever I want to you.
Answer my question.
I think that the reason that they're beholden is because they are in a relationship with other world powers that allow them to exist only because they're holding up those terms of the agreement. The reason that states are allowed to have these trade agreements that they have with other nations, the reason that they're given aid in war from the UN is because, and you know what? Israel's playing loose and fast with it. If anybody's going to play loose and fast with the AI, it's going to be the people playing loose and fast with white phosphorus. It's going to be this larger question of, is it okay to do whatever you want to a terrorist organization just because they're not a state? I don't know. Is it okay to do anything you want in self-defense? I would say no. Not as a civilized person, not as a person who is beholden to a moral contract, supposedly. You can't just go back to, like I said, sticks and stones whenever you fucking want.
The reason, to build on what Tuna's saying, the reason why, if one side is abandoning the law that's agreed upon by international powers, is that then they get to go, these are the bad guys here, okay? These are the people that are breaking the law, and we need your help to follow the rules, help us follow the rules to defeat them. Seems like a pretty good way to encourage people to follow these kinds of rules.
Wait,
if they're going to break all the rules,
you think that
you have one rule breaker
in 20.
Follow
the rules and go fight.
I'm saying that's
Israel?
what happens. That's
definitely
how other
not.
nations
No, that's
enter.
not what happens.
That it is how other nations enter conflicts that have nothing to do with. That's sure as hell how America justifies it. We go, oh, they're killing their own people. Well, when it was before they were killing their own people, we couldn't do anything about it. But now that they are, we can throw them some money, some weapons, and if it gets bad enough, maybe we'll put boots on the ground. But we don't have that justification to do that until they start breaking the rules.
I don't like this assumption that Hamas.
What rules exactly would they break?
Well, let's let Theo go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't even like the assumption that Hamas has access to this technology, because I mean, like, look at what their conditions are right now. They barely even have access to, like, you know, missiles that can reach more than 10 feet over the border. Like, I don't think that they're running complex computer simulations.
Okay, you're actually.
They have suicide drones that work using AI. This is a very.
Giving them missiles
I don't know if you realize how easy it is to acquire this technology. It's very easy. It's like,
well, there's a difference between drones and AI models, right? I mean,
the AI models. AI model.
You can buy a drone from Amazon, okay, and write a code for it to freaking suicide bomb itself on a target.
We're not talking
if you
about
wish.
drones.
It's
this can't be a conversation about
Hamas.
This can't be a conversation about Hamas's
this technology.
ethics.
I say yes.
Yeah,
it does.
This is not a conversation about
clear,
Hamas's ethics. I think that we all think that Hamas doesn't.
I'm not talking about Hamas's ethics. If you're about to say that Hamas does not have a technology that I know that they do have, I'm going to interfere. Sorry.
I never said anything.
This
about
is not unrelated. Unrelated.
It's
freaking unrelated to ethics. Okay.
Okay.
Just facts.
Okay, I'm gonna reset this. Right? I just want to let everyone know that I do not know, but I would not be surprised if the leadership of Hamas, who is not in Gaza but in Qatar and other countries, have access to this, or it's funding. Iran absolutely has access to this, for example, right? I would bet the bank on that. That said, right, I do want to kind of ask the question here. Because we are all looking at what is current. I want to talk a little bit, just briefly, about what we could or should move towards. Because while we have things that are available now, we can't really close the box on that. What we can do is slow down the development of certain things when it comes to AI. Is this worth pursuing or not? Or do we think we should just accelerate it and to get it past the bumps and hurdles of the initial phases to a more kind of a smoother ride? What are we thinking?
But you can't.
Well,
slow
you don't
down
want to be
technological
late for
progress.
the race, I guess.
I mean, my take is going to be that we should do whatever we can to remove all nuclear arms, all like just downscale all means of killing, because the AI doesn't matter. The AI is like grease on the wheels of the war machine. The idea is how much death can it deal out when it's greased up. The AI is.
I don't think you can eliminate code.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's not what
Like
he's-
you're not. That doesn't make that much sense because there's going to be a way around it. I don't care necessarily about the brain. I care about what it's controlling. So, and also when it comes to the AI, like let's say that it's really really good, it is still a tool. It's going to do who is using the tool. It's gonna aid them in their means. So like. Do I think that an evil person, by my own ethical code, do I think that somebody doing something bad with a really good tool, we should take the tool away? No, I would say.
Tools in war. I'll give you an example. Chemical weapons. We're not allowed to use those on military on people, right? We're not allowed to use chemical weapons.
Not
right?
supposed to. Yeah, exactly.
And we generally follow that rule, and those who do break it are punished.
Well, not
always.
Bashar al-Assad was not that.
Now Samantha
punished,
has it
I think.
her way.
Yeah. We're actually in a really weird intermediate state where right now AI is going to be best used in war to kill people, but a sufficiently advanced AI system doesn't actually have to quote unquote pull the trigger on anybody. We can cut off all their means to getting supplies. We can cut out all their means of communications. We can cripple them economically. We don't actually have to kill anybody using a sufficiently advanced AI system. We can just stop their means of being able to cause the damage that would make us want to war with them to begin with. So we're in this weird transitionary space where AI is just good enough to help us do what we're already good at, which is killing motherfuckers left and right. But when the AI gets good enough, it can take much vaster amounts of data to really cut off the ability to cause problems.
$10.
I think that
$10. Let me make my money.
Yep.
$10 from
You're good.
Clybourne to say we need to be aggressive in our AI research arc. Losing this race would be catastrophic. Nuclear weapons have kept great powers from direct conflict.
Okay, I'll go in a couple of things. So
I
want to respond to that $2. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Theo, and then we'll go to you, and then anyone else wants it. So Theo, go
I think
ahead.
I'm kind of flexible on this one because I think we've all seen, especially this last year with Oppenheimer, like we've kind of re-examined like the race to the nuke, and think that this is similar in some ways and different in some ways too. But I don't know if we should necessarily be aggressive about it because I don't see this technology being as dangerous as a nuclear weapon. Like Samantha said, it's just at the end of the day, it's algorithms, it's sorting data. So I don't necessarily know if the comparison to nukes is as valid. But I think that there's no point in not researching it, but I don't know if we should be, pushing as hard as we currently are. Like we've seen all this stuff with the Department of Defense, like talking about how much of their budget they're dumping into this, and I don't know. I never like that. I never like hearing the Department of Defense dumping a significant part of their budget into this. But I don't think it's great, but it's not.
Well, that's military research, I guess. No.
Technological research in general. It seems I always think that this part of the conversation about AI is really weird to me, because it seems like people think that there's actually an ability to stifle technological progress. I just think it's manifest destiny. We are going to do it. For as many people that are shouting no, all the laws that say you can't do it, there will be people doing everything they can to advance it. This is what humans do. We see a tall mountain, we're gonna climb it. They say you can't climb it, they're gonna sneak past the barricades. Somebody's gonna figure out how to climb that fucking thing. We can't stop it. So it's going to be about who is going to advance it, what are their intentions going to be, and trying and just hoping that the right people are going to advance it in the right way.
So if, again, Tuna, go ahead.
Yeah,
Tuna.
go ahead. No. Ask your question. Ask your question. I want to hear what your thing is.
Well, if that being the case, would it not make sense for us to go full accelerations on us so that we not only have the AI before them, but we have better AI than them that can overcome theirs? Wouldn't that be the natural kind of conclusion?
It's the only thing that can happen.
I mean, that's the natural incentive.
I think that's exactly what we're doing.
Well, let Tuna go, and then you can respond, and then Samantha can get in here.
That's the natural thing for anybody who want to do. That's where the incentives are, so that's what's going to happen. Nonetheless, the question of what the AI is doing, like AI, and even then, when we're talking about this, we are talking one of the, like, we're using the most general term for a very, very specific use case. We aren't talking Skynet. We are talking about data parsing. We are talking about a very tool-based AI, not a fully automated war machine. So when I'm looking at that, I don't think that the AI is the problem nearly as much as the effect on the people that are involved in the process. And that's why I'm making these comparisons to, like, this question of what has drone warfare done, and also what did the grander authoritarian structure of Nazi Germany do to the decisions and the, like, long-term psychological impact on people that were involved in that in those conflicts, which is that, you know, you are going to feel like you were less responsible because more of that process is not going through your moral decision apparatus. And we're going to have a lot more happening that people don't feel beholden to. I don't think that it's a good idea, as much as people think war is war.
We already have this situation.
Yeah, but it's do you not think that turning up the fire on a boiling frog is bad? Like, I'm saying right now, people
That's not what
notice
I said.
it. No. Okay, well, we already have this situation, and it's getting worse with this. Each bit of technology that separates people from agency in war, and I'm talking about the soldiers themselves on our own side, is going to create a more chaotic form of trauma after war for the people when they try and face what they've done. You don't know what you are a part of and what you're not a part of. In some ways, the drone strike operators don't know whose lives they've killed, what the families have been affected by. They don't get to see the man's brains splatter out of his head and then later, like, come to terms with what they've done.
Artillery operators do?
Tank drivers.
No, I think all of this technology is bad. I think all of this technology is bad in the same way that I wouldn't want anybody to, like, go in and create, like, this terrible war trauma for themselves, period. I'm saying... This is less agency in it.
Killing people with a button is always bad, but we've had it for, like, tens of years.
Wait, Tuna, do you think that, like, laser guided or, like, you know, targeted missiles are worse than dumb bombs that can be dropped at random? Or
say it again. My headphones got fucked.
Laser guided missiles,
exactly.
Or, like, you know, laser targeting systems, right? Where you have someone put you know, a dedicated target, and is that, like, worse than, like, a dumb bomb just dropped at, like, the, you know, timing of a pilot that can't be, like, perfectly put on target? Do you think that's, like, worse?
Over time, yeah, I think it creates a worse relationship for the soldier. He doesn't have as much agency.
Tuna.
Yes. That was a dumb response. Okay, like you know that those guidance systems actually prevent it from like being dropped on the wrong spot, or the wind changing it
Exactly.
in the house next door. Like this is a net positive.
Accuracy is important.
That's what he's talking about.
It's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm not talking. You're looking at a different metric.
Hold on. Yes, a different metric, right? Where you're just looking at like AI as like some horrible weapon that can dehumanize people or whatever, right? When we're talking about you were talking earlier about that being fed random fucking data.
I didn't say that.
Yes,
who do you think
said random data at one point because I wrote it down as you said it. The thing is, do you know what, like when we have intelligence reports, do you know what the difference between like actionable and unactionable intelligence is? Do you know the difference between the two?
I'm getting frustrated with you. Give me a second.
I don't give a shit if you're getting frustrated. If that's a
you are the most intolerable personality I've dealt with in ages.
Retards I've spoken
She's
to
asking
in the
a
past
legit
6 months.
question.
It's
What
a
the hell?
basic question.
I am not
It's
debating.
basic.
Jesus.
Do you know the difference? Do you know the difference between actionable and unactionable?
Put your dog on a fucking leash, Wick. Jesus Christ.
Ooh.
Can you take a moment and have a conversation in a productive way as opposed to trying to be aggressive?
Okay. All of you.
Hit me with the tiz. Go for it.
Stop. You reset.
Jesus Christ.
Can you engage with the content?
You have a crash
She said
personality.
not
I
her.
want to engage with you. I
thought this was
want
fucking
productive
adults.
conversation.
Is this an adult panel? Who's got the fucking child here?
Tuna.
Go get therapy.
Tuna, I want to hear from Tuna and no one else right now. Tuna?
You're crowdfunding therapy right now, so how about you take a
well,
fucking
what I
moment
want you
and
to
think
do is
about
address
what
the
you're
question and stop, because if you keep flinging insults, they'll keep flinging it back. So if someone has to put a stop to that, that will be me. I will put a stop to that for now. We can go back to that. But I want you to answer the question, Tuna. Engage with it, please.
I want to hear the question again.
Okay, restate your question, Samantha, please.
Do you know the difference between actionable and unactionable intelligence?
No, not really. No, I don't know what you're asking.
Okay, so you're probably not cognitively equipped to fucking have this debate. Okay, so
you are such a prick. Talk like a respectful human being. I swear to God.
I was until you fucking flew off the handle and had a.
I'm mad at you because you were being aggressive to me earlier, and I'm finding it upsetting to talk with you. I don't want.
Would you like to go into a room and hug it out? Want a kumbaya? Smoke a peace pipe? Hold hands? Need a safe.
Well, this shit went off the rails.
Okay.
Do you want a productive conversation or do you want to be condescending? I want to know which one it is.
I mean, I was trying to act a productive question, and you fucking spurged.
Well, you asked the question by completely ignoring Tuna's point when he said you were off track. You've been doing this all night. As soon as somebody says something, as soon as you start talking, or somebody says something, you start talking. Go fuck everything they said. Here's what I'm gonna talk about.
And you brought no.
That's what consistently happened.
I'm the only one with like a factual basis in this knowledge, and like you guys are just like, oh my
See?
god, it's Terminator.
You just said fuck what you said. I'm right, motherfucker, because I said so. That's all you've done all night.
Okay.
So, I understand getting frustrated.
Okay. I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna
preventing
different line of thinking.
conversation
Let me ask
happening.
the question. And maybe this will be good. I understand that. Do you apply the same thing to range, Tuna? I'm just curious. So, in your opinion, one of the dangers of this is it separates the soldier from the act that they are committing, and so it makes them less able or willing, or requires less of them to carry out a murderous act because they can't look in their eyes as the life drains out of them. So do you apply this same kind of thinking to things like a gun that you can kill from 400 paces away, right? You don't have to even see who you're dealing with. Or is it simply, or is the act that it's being offloaded to an AI of a different type in your mind? No,
I do think that guns are a net bag for the human race. I think killing is bad. And I think that the only times that killing should ever happen are times where a person genuinely believes that the other person being dead is the only thing that will prevent something worse from happening. The less agency people have when they make that decision, the more distant. I want to.
Criteria.
Samantha. Okay, it's not Samantha in this instance. Sorry, it's hard.
That's a horrible criterion.
I saw the lips moving.
Well,
I swear to God, I want to finish my sentence.
Okay, women, right? We'll talk about them Wednesday.
It'll be
now,
it.
For now, we're talking about AI. Go ahead.
I don't think it's women. I think it's this space, man, but it's what it is. Not to hate on you. It's about the internet, period. It's not just this room. But anyway, no. The less agents that you have in a decision, the less responsible you feel for it, the more that there's a snowball effect of these decisions that nobody feels culpable for adding on top of one another. I don't like adding more technology to war.
Do you think?
I think that.
Yeah, but I want to interrogate this for a minute because I don't think this matches up with history. In fact, the more we've advanced technologically, and I'm sure there's other causal factors in this, but we tend to. It's honestly, at least in the Western world, the most safe time to be a civilian ever in war, right? If we were looking at the times when they had swords and sticks and stones, they would just kill everyone. Men, women, children, they didn't care. They would kill them all. So I don't know if this separation, right, through technology is leading us to the results that you are claiming it does. It doesn't seem to.
The number of people that died inside of medieval times, as you would reference, versus like just literally the Holocaust. It's like immeasurable how much responsibility the people that did the killing felt versus how they have felt in the future. I'm worried about how many more people die without anybody having any confidence whether or not the people who are dying need to be killed.
Tuna, I wanted to ask you this before things got kind of...
How do you measure that?
Then I want Theo to go because Theo has, again...
Can I ask him?
Yes, you can ask.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Hey,
Go ahead.
So I think I understand what you're saying, because to me, in my head, I think that war was more appropriate, so to speak, before there were guns. When people had to go out with their sticks and swords, they had to look into another human being's eyes. They could hear them gurgling on their own blood. They knew the hell that the war was. And when they went back home, leaving the bodies of their enemies and dragging their wounded back home to seek medical treatment, they understood the terrible thing that had happened that day. And that has an impact on their culture and their society going forward. And the next time that there is a battle to be fought, they know what kind of cost there truly is. Instead of just having a broad idea and understanding of what war is,
but
they know what it
𝕉𝖎,
is.
those cultures were all like kill everyone, right?
No, they met on a battle. They did typically. Sometimes there would be like people raiding villages, which would lead into
the
a
sack
war
of
where
the
they
sack
would meet
of all
the
these
other
cities, the sack of all when they won after the battle was done, they would go into the city and do the raping and the pillaging.
Well, not always. I mean,
not all of them,
not
but
all of them, but a large number.
I was trying to paint a broader picture that was easier to ascertain of Tuna's point here is that Tuna wants, when people go to war, he wants them to exit it thinking that was hell. This was the worst thing ever. And not something that you can just read about on your tablet.
Either that was hell or genuinely that was hell, but I had to do it. I want people to just genuinely know whether or not the actions they did in war, I want them to be an extension of their agency. So the more that we remove people from the process, the worse. For the people in the war, both the victims and the perpetrators.
And I think that's a pretty defendable point, more or less, irregardless of, what examples you bring up and what we say. I think that central point there is pretty defensible. People should be connected to war.
Of course, I'm a Philistine with 2 rocks and a twig for a brain, so God forbid we talk about it. But, Samantha and her superior genetics, her infallible might of mind.
I mean,
you wanted to reply. You had your raised hand.
Holy shit. So anyway, I was gonna say the acceleration of like AI and development like should be like a net positive for you, because in the future, hey, we wouldn't have to have anybody die in war because there'd just be a bunch of fucking robots fighting each other.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
Hold on, that's a
pretty
joke outcome,
stupid
but it
statement.
could be cool. But I just said it was a joke outcome.
Okay.
But like at the same time, just like guided missiles helped reduce like wrongful targeting or mistargeting of like different like structures, just like
Civilian casualties,
drones, just like drones and other things help reduce the amount of deaths from our side, because our government's trying to keep us as safe as possible while obliterating the enemy like in every fucking possible way. Okay, this is a good thing for countries to do. Warfare is hell, and you don't want to put your people from it. I care about like people so much in my country that I don't want any of them to get harmed in warfare. So if my friends are going to be driving drones at a fucking bunker in Colorado to fucking kill some fucking terrorists over on the other side of the fucking world, that is a fucking good thing for my people in my country. And you know, when our government's trying to make these steps to make war safer for us, but more hell on the enemy, that is a fucking good thing in my mind.
How would you feel
Do you
about
have
that
any
technology
sympathy-
perfected? If I could say, hey,
Yeah.
Alexa, I really hate that chick that turned me down when I asked her out for prom. Send a drone to kill her right now. And I just can sit back and know that she's fucking done. I got drunk and
Well, she will probably have a defense drone.
Yeah, she'll probably have her
She
own
will
fucking
probably
drone.
have a defense
She
drone.
She doesn't
on
have
her
as much
fucking
money as me.
garage.
She's done. My shit's better.
Damn, shouldn't be poor.
She's Palestinian.
Yeah.
It's easy as that.
Well, do you have any sympathy for people on the other side of these weapons, though, Samantha? Because you seem to be talking about our people, our nation, but do you have any sympathy for the people who might be, you know, in these apartment
which is why
buildings?
I don't want civilians killed, and why I think AI can help us make better decision making on targeting to reduce the amount of civilian casualties and collateral damage while obliterating military targets. I think this is a net positive. I do not care about enemy combatants. I do not give a fuck about terrorists. I do not give a fuck about these people. They want to fuck around, they can fucking find out. I do care about the civilians. This is something we should reduce. This is something AI can help us do if we like get research and funding and get these models right. This is a good thing, and everybody here just wants to fucking spurg, except for fucking the new person. Goat, never met you. Holy fuck, you're based. Thank you.
Samantha?
All the things that you said you do and don't care about
You're based
are assigned those roles by the speaker. So, like, I think somebody who holds the opposing view of you can say the exact same thing, and now we have opposite values.
Well,
like, what the
as
fuck?
someone who has been on the
These
receiving
degenerate
end of,
Americans.
hey, you're going to do this based off of actionable intelligence, and seen numerous outcomes of what happens when we have actionable intelligence.
Actionable
which is a
intelligence
thing.
based on a set of values. And
Yes,
if the values
I
are
think
opposite,
our democratic
then
values in the United States are
actionable-
based, and I think that we should spread
That's
democratic
not-
values throughout the
Okay,
country. So,
okay,
like,
you
I'm
guys-
fine
Data
with
is
that.
not based on democratic
We don't.
Okay.
If
Elder
the other
Dodger-
side
to
wants
bring
to
up
protect
values,
civilian
yeah.
lives as well, I think that's great. Okay, if both sides want to protect civilian lives and make sure there are no civilian casualties, that's wonderful. Nobody's arguing with that. That's
There-
great. That's great. That's how it's supposed to be.
There is a difficulty here, which is that, Samantha, you have a really high level of faith that the government, when they're doing these, when they are programming this AI, that they are attempting to be more moral. But then in other instances, you're speaking from this idea that it's all about
This
winning.
isn't
It's a
hypothetical.
I'm not-
this is
I want to
don't
get a
trust the
statement
government
out.
to do anything. They're not programming the fucking AI, right? This is being done by a contractor. I don't trust the military to do anything. I've served with these guys. We're all retarded.
No, I'm not talking about. No, I'm saying the people that are using this tool will want to kill other people, including civilians. The accuracy of the tool doesn't cure the heart of the man.
No. Shut the fuck up. You just said some like fucking retard shit again.
Obviously,
Do you think that, like, Do you
obviously.
think that people in the no? Yes, you did. You said that these people using it will want to kill civilians. Do you think that Wick and me, who have served, like went out of our way to be like, you know what, guys? I want to fucking kill some fucking kids today. I want to kill some.
Yeah, I served
Do you-
too.
I don't know about
That
you,
is
but
not what's
retarded.
on our
Definitely
mind.
child killer vibes.
No. Okay,
Sure.
like here's the thing. But like you can talk about like exceptions, but like when we were talking about the rule, like nobody fucking wants to do this. You're actually fucking retarded and should fucking punch yourself in the dick for saying that. That was the dumbest shit that came out of your mouth today.
Yeah,
least
tuna
I
terrorists
can.
don't even exist, retard.
Okay.
At least I can have a conversation from a position.
people. Terrorists are the people that want to fucking kill civilians. Us developing AI to be able to target things better. This is because we want to reduce the things.
Terrorists have never gotten a hold of our technology.
Sorry.
Ever.
I'm sorry. I forgot that America is Superman.
For terrorism to go off of actionable intelligence
America
models
is not
and
inherently
target less
evil.
civilians. Give them our AI. That
Didn't
would
say
make
inherently
better
evil.
Fighting anything.
I'm-
and reduce
Well, you
civilian
were
casualties in the
implying
end.
it.
Okay,
No,
let me
that's
ask.
not what I'm implying.
Let me
That's
ask.
not what I'm implying. Let me respond. Let me respond to this.
Respond,
I
and
am
then I have
not.
a question.
This is
You're
not
assuming that
America.
this side.
This
that
is
you're
not
talking
America
about is
evil.
Inherently evil.
I am not saying America evil. America changes hands constantly. We are creating a war machine that gets passed down to different rulers, different presidents every fucking 4. It used to be every 8. It's about to be every 4 with how disagreeable we are. Every 4 years, somebody with a more radical idea is going to own this. I don't like that. I don't want to have a big giant war machine where anybody who decides, you know what? Actually, I do just want to clean
Do you think the
packies off the
president
fucking
is sitting
earth.
in every fucking planning committee for like a fucking operation and sitting there doing every little fucking thing day to day and like calling all the shots?
No, but I
that's
do
right, that's right.
but
he dictates it down. He dictates it down to people that have done this and know the responsibilities of war. This is why we have generals. This is why we have our commanders, battalion commanders, brigade commanders, company commanders, fucking everything down. We have them because they know what to do, and we abide by a moral standard and ethical code that they teach us in the military to not do these things. So the
Samantha?
president is gonna sit there. No, shut the fuck up,
Exactly. That's a
retard.
very important
Samantha?
part. That's a very
Samantha,
important
do you-
part of the
Fuck
military.
You, fuck you.
Okay.
The moral
Fuck you.
code of the
Fucking
military
brain.
is the thing.
Try.
Okay, it's very important,
Try
and
what?
it gets taught
Oh my
to
God.
every soldier. Okay,
Okay.
it's very important. The military ethics code. And
Well, I mean,
everyone
but look
knows it. Nobody's going to the army just to kill people and just to, I don't know, do insane
couple.
massacres.
We all
That's
know
not
that's
their
true.
point
We
there.
all know that's not true. There are
There's a
people in the
really
military.
Okay,
weird-
unless you're Russia.
Besides, there are people everywhere.
how does this
Kind of a
picture
weird
make you
depiction.
feel,
Well, there
Samantha?
are radical people everywhere, but that's not.
How do you feel about this
most-
picture,
that's not
Samantha? How do you feel about Abu Ghraib? How do you feel about Abu Ghraib?
Yeah,
Tell
they
me.
got an exception, not the rule, and they were punished.
It's not
for
the
that,
exception. It's not the
Fringe.
exception.
Were they-
Do you think that
Fringe
every soldier?
cases.
Do you think that a majority of the military
Nobody's
was
saying.
like that?
It's not what
I
I'm
don't know if we
saying.
can have that picture up on Twitch. Just-
Okay, well,
You're still
she's
saying that
talking out her
America
ass.
People
I'm
in
not.
the military
I'm
are
not.
evil in America, and I
What
disagree with that.
happens? What happens when you embolden the part of the soldier's brain that decides the enemy can be treated however it wants because we're the good guys and they're the
How
bad
do you
guys?
do that?
You use people
How
as
do you
fucking
do that?
toys.
The AI isn't talking about the treatment,
How?
okay? Now that you're off on a fucking different tangent, right? What I
Detachment.
said numerous times, ability to minimize wrongful deaths is something that we could use this for. Something that they're going to use this for. Most of the development that is done when the government contracts things out end up making our people safer, end up reducing the amount of unneeded casualties and
people.
unneeded damage.
For our people,
Yes,
at
our
least.
people.
Yes.
This is the you're we get
Samantha,
it,
you
hate
painted a
America.
very fairy tale-esque picture of how our government.
And you guys painted a fucking
acts
like
with,
Dante's Inferno level of
I
fucking.
think that's very realistic one. Why is
Oh
it
my
a fairy
God, we're gonna
tale?
have Terminators running around, fucking killing all
Juno
civilians.
Why do you
suggest-
keep going back to that example? I don't
God,
think
this
anyone
is-
ever said that.
I'm actually really impressed at your precognition ability. You responded to me while I was still talking. It's fucking fascinating.
You're welcome.
I
She
guess
can
we
see
don't
the
even need
future.
panels. You can just tell us what we all think and why we're wrong and stupid.
Yes,
And you
I
can
can
call
do
us
that.
a bunch of slurs.
The
I guess
AI has predicted all our
Sorry.
opinions.
Hey, I didn't slur anything. I enunciated it perfectly. Okay, retard.
oh
She's
god,
perfectly
yes, retard's not a slur.
calculated. She's
Uh,
perfectly
There are
calculated
worse
all
slurs
right.
that Samantha has said in private, I'm sure, considering that we're saying that,
Slurs.
how dare anybody say, anybody ever imply
Tuna.
that soldiers or the United States government have ever intentionally caused harm.
Given that that's the
Never
case,
happened.
Hold on,
Want to.
Tuna. Given that's the case, you brought
You're
up.
not
you
saying
brought up,
that,
you
you're
brought up
saying a
Abu
very
Ghraib. You
extreme
brought up Abu
case.
Ghraib. That's an important point to bring up. Wouldn't it be better if instead of you had soldiers like who committed those atrocities in Abu Ghraib, you had an AI that was dictating all of this? The AI cannot be as inhuman as these humans are, right? would it not be better, given the fact that there is a propensity, even if you believe this is true, if you believe it's true that the average soldier has a propensity to want to kill, maim, and destroy the enemy side, would it not be safer for the enemy to put the decision in the hands of a cold calculating machine?
I don't believe that the soldiers have an innate desire to do harm. I'm saying that they do harm the more detached they feel from the conflict, the safer they feel. That's why I don't like the AI, because the AI is not something that acts in part, but as an extension of the soldier, something that allows him to be more detached from the conflict.
That's a good thing
I think
for
it
the soldier,
fights
if
that
I may. That's a good thing for the soldier, because one of the reasons that they engage in, on occasion, horrific acts is because of the fear and the hate that they feel because of the experience they have had with the close-up. It breaks them in a way that they are less than likely to be broken if there is distance, right? It is, I would argue, more humane.
It would just shock me why it is that when people are prisoners, we're playing with them versus if they're in the field, we just kill them. Like, people, when they feel safe, they do let out this part. And I don't believe in this sunshiny idea that the shadow only comes from trauma. I think that there is always a part of us that has the ability to execute, especially when we dehumanize the other, execute these like brutal forms of treatment. I don't think that Abu Ghraib's happening because people are traumatized and this is an act of revenge. That girl had a smile on her face. It is fun. It is actively fun to engage in irreverent play, regardless of what you're doing. So if you dehumanize the other and you don't think of them as a person, but as a toy in your irreverent
Do you think
play,
anybody can do that?
It's
I
happening.
think you can do it.
Everybody have this.
I think you can do it. Everybody,
you think
including
everybody has this evil side? Okay, that it takes only to dehumanize a person for him to have fun killing.
No, I think
everyone has that capacity.
morality is constructed precisely of the belief that the other is on equal terms with you. Yes.
It's not an evil side. It's just how people are. If you're backed into a corner, especially if you feel you have no other choice but to do something awful, you're going to get more and more accustomed to thinking that you have to.
We're talking about dehumanization, not
when you
somebody doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, when you become detached from it through dehumanization and other ways of separating you from the act, then it allows you to it allows the empathy to be removed from the situation.
Part of the humanization of the enemy. Part of the humanization of the enemy is witnessing the horror of the actions you are doing to the enemy. When I shoot somebody and they are screaming,
you empathize someone more when you see them yourself.
I disagree. I'll disagree, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, 200 bits from 𝕬𝖎. I dream of a world where two AIs are at war. One says, checkmate in 42 moves, and the other says, yeah, I can't beat that, and gives up. Thank you for the 200 bits. $5 from Cryborn to say, Samantha, are you getting at the fact that better tech has reduced civilian deaths? I guess we'll ask Samantha when she's back.
Oh, she's back. She's back.
But I guess to respond to you, Tuna, I think the opposite happens. So what you see when you're on the battlefield is you see the enemy engaging in what you interpret to be monstrous acts. You see them shooting, killing, disemboweling, destroying, raping, pillaging, etc. This, more than your own actions, far more than your own actions, is what dehumanizes the enemy to you. Because you don't understand their reasoning, you don't understand why they're doing it or what they attempt to accomplish, right? All you are seeing, the only exposure you have to the enemy is their attacks upon you. And so you see them only as these things that attack, these monsters that come in the night to destroy you, right? If we can separate the person from the act, I think that has the potential to be a way to remind us that, oh, these aren't just monsters. They're humans using the same tools we do.
That we're humans. Yeah.
I don't think that doesn't dehumanize. and it might even dehumanize on a stronger level. I'm saying that I think that it is underestimated how much the other is dehumanized when we have total power over them. The same way that there is the inherent dehumanization of the slave in the presence of the person, the same with prisoners to prison guards. We just know from so many psychological experiments that when you have total control over another person, when things are slanted in this heavy way, you feel less culpable when you engage in high levels of cruelty. Whether or not it's going to be something like the Stanford Prison Experiment, whether or not it's going to be in war like Abu Ghraib, which is more brutal, admittedly, and I think that's because it's fed from both of these things at once. I don't like the detachment. And I think that when we're trying to talk about what can we do to make it so that war is less brutal, that fewer people are dying, I do think that it comes from...
Have better AI technologies.
I love being interrupted.
The
I
AI
love it.
technology can't
You
love it,
interrupt as
people.
well, so...
Oh yeah, you Spurg interrupt.
Own.
Spurg, retard. What are the other words that you like using all the time? We're talking about dehumanization. How easy it is to see the effects of a person.
Dehumanizing stupidity. I'm pro dehumanizing stupidity.
Stupidity. Okay.
I agree.
Oh my god, is
Into it.
stupid a slur now too? This is why I started
there we
using
go.
No, I'm
retard
saying
again.
you.
Oh my god.
You have this aggressive front
be
that is
okay?
attached deeply to your need to think of
Uh-huh.
the other as not equal. I'm the only one that knows anything. I'm the only person who's allowed to have a conversation about anything,
No,
except
you're allowed
for
to have a
people who agree with
conversation
me.
about it, and you're also allowed to be wrong. That is based. Be wrong.
Or you could be right and awesome all the time.
I'm gonna have to watch 700 hours of Samantha's opinions and reprogram myself. It's the only way.
As an AI would do, perhaps.
As an AI would do. The LLC is starting. Samantha, I'll be sending you paychecks. I will become your large language model. I will become the powerful vessel which speaks from you.
Are you
just
gonna
like
let your
you
shadow out?
The
Shadow?
first AI software that self-terminates.
need.
Okay, enough of that. I want to ask a question to Theo.
I think you're a bit late for that.
Yeah, I'll talk. I want to ask Theo a question. I'm curious what 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 has to think too, and then we can open up to the rest of the panel, right? And I want to kind of bring it back a little bit to the current usage of AI, to the fact that, do you think it's inherently immoral or inherently wrong that Israel is using the AI to help collate and process the data to generate their targets for strikes? What is your opinion on that specific instance?
And that was directed to me, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think it's necessarily immoral in the way that, a hammer can't be immoral, but we got to look at, how it's being used. Like Tuna said, it's a tool. So, I mean, tools cannot necessarily be morally
Let me
immoral.
rephrase. Do you think that the way they're using this tool is immoral?
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at this. The data that is being fed into it, and this is an assumption. I don't know for sure. I am not part of the IDF. I'm looking at the results and interpolating what's probably happening behind the scenes. But we've seen civilian casualties skyrocket after this technology has been introduced. So I can only assume that this AI that they're using to find targets is flawed in some way. If the goal is reducing civilian casualties and it is increasing civilian casualties, then it seems to me the tool's being used, wrong.
𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙, thoughts?
So I guess to start off, I would say that I think ultimately it's inevitable. If they have the tool, they're going to use it. But the thing that makes it really scary, just within the frame that you provided, is that the AI just lacks contextual understanding. It can't discern intent. There's unintended consequences that the AI just cannot possibly, it just doesn't have, it's not equipped to understand these things. It has no legal or ethical concerns. It's literally just running the data sets.
Yeah, but
that you give
the shooting of the missile happens by a person. A person is the one who's like, okay, this target is legit. Let's bomb it.
Sure,
It's not the AI who's like randomly bombing everything. It's people who decide which target is gonna get bombed and no.
I can address that, but I just wanted to add the last part. The thing that makes it the most morally egregious is that doing this makes them so much more vulnerable to manipulation. All it takes is for somebody to manipulate that data, and now everything they think that they're doing for their own benefit isn't even lining up with their goals. That's really scary to me, and I think morally
Manipulate how?
Manipulate data. All it takes is one bad actor to change
the target.
data.
You have to teach the
Well,
AI model
the
to
target's
hate
decided by data.
Palestinian children.
That seems to be what they're
And-
doing. I mean, look at the results.
And I'm really sorry, Goat. What was the thing that you had said? I said that I would address it, and then my brain went blank for a minute.
Let me
have a fever. You have to forgive
I think I said something, how do you feed it wrong information?
You
How
said
is it
that
not
too.
something that happens in the old-fashioned way of acquiring targets?
Well, a human can question data that seems sketchy. AI, it just goes, okay, this is what it is. Here you go.
Just to let you know.
Yeah, but the human is going to question that information too.
I want to make sure we know what's actually being done here. The AI isn't like the AI's work is being babysat, right? It's not just the AI doing it. There are people on the ground who are looking at the connections they make, who are looking at the data that's being generated, the conclusion that's being come to, and the person is giving the green light or not to it, right? So I don't know the error rate. I don't know how much. Like, there's so many unknowns with this specific situation. It's really hard to say if it's good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Really hard to jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if the accuracy rate is more or less than when a human does it, right? Like,
That's not data that exists right now, right?
Yeah.
And
Not yet.
Yeah. So part of the problem with the way that this operates is that so you have people monitoring the AI, making sure that it's doing what.
Well,
it's
so what'll happen
doing,
if it
but we
happens
don't know
like
how
in
it comes to
America?
its
And I'm making
conclusions
an assumption here. If I'm making an assumption here, okay? So I want to get that straight out. But if it happens like in America, what'll happen is the analysts will gather the data, they'll pull out their report and their target list. These are the reasons why I think this is a valid target. This is a situation. Here's a target. Here's possible civilian deaths that we estimate. Here's the estimated time they're going to be here, etc. This is why we think this is a valid target because of X, Y, and Z, right? So, in the analyst world, you would put all that together. You would present it to your commanding officer. The commanding officer would give a green light or a red light, and it would go up the chain, right? And eventually,
So, Wick, are they're doing the same process as doing normal actionable intelligence reports? They're just acquiring the targets at a faster rate, putting all the other data and circumstantial stuff.
It's more workforce.
Okay.
The part that's different with this is that instead of having a team go through and an analyst gather the data, the AI is doing it, and then someone is looking over the list, right, to verify.
So the data is gathered by intel, by drones, by whatever, and then it's getting parsed through by the AI model to.
Yeah, and it's get approved.
Humans are making it actionable based off of circumstances surrounding.
As I understand it, again, assuming this is being reported correctly, assuming that So again, we gotta.
Ideally.
I think what's more likely is what's happening is that somebody is gathering the data set. Hopefully that's correct. And then they feed it into the AI. People are monitoring the AI to make sure that it is functioning appropriately. And then that gets sent off to somebody who is then told the AI is operating functionally on this data set. Now you can make the call based on the output. However, we don't know how the AI comes to its conclusions. That's not something that we really get to see. That's one of the really weird things about AI. So when I'm talking about data being manipulated, if the data is manipulated, the AI can be functioning completely 100% perfectly. And then that output will appear to be come to appropriate conclusions. But because we can't see the processes, the person gets the go ahead, says, yep, AI is functioning properly. We gave it the good data. And so they're going to say, okay, we're good to go. But if something was messed with in the interim there at any point, then we don't know that something bad is happening, and we're giving the go-ahead thinking we're doing anything right, and bad results can come.
That's not how it works.
That's the same situation that you have with a normal human who is trying to decide if this is a good target.
This is the concern.
Okay.
But times 50
Not
now.
times 50. But
well, it's moving. It's happening faster.
Times more than
things
50
are getting done more quickly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give numbers for that because it's very.
I'm just using it to illustrate why it's worse instead of just the old-fashioned way.
I want to pass the ball to Tuna. He has his hands up.
Just to also go on that ticket, when it comes to the box, and people know this when they're engaging with it, AI is not properly named. This machine learning algorithms that we're using are pattern recognizing, but they're not explaining we have to interpret and try and get a sense of it. There have been many instances of false negative where a computer was using completely unintuitive means, usually game cheating means by what we would think of in order to get correct answers. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. There was an instance where they were trying to detect diseases, and they were training the AI to like scan a body, and the way it was detecting extremely accurately for cancer was to look at the film grain of the picture to determine the age of the picture, because the more likely all of the old pictures, classic cases of what a positive looks like, they're older. And it was only noticing that when it was being given random scans that were being made in the moment, it would rule those out. And even though it's not using an actual conclusive process, it's gaming. It learns to game the system. We don't know whether or not the output is actually
It gives
doing
a
the thing that we want.
probabilistic. Yeah, it gives a probability of an out, like how it's probabilistic answer, like for.
Well, in this instance, that's not even
asked.
probabilistic, though, because what's happening is it's subverting the game, because it's looking at information that has nothing to do with how it will be used. After that machine is done being trained on old pictures and new pictures, it will go into a world where it only applies to new pictures.
Does it matter, right, if the accuracy rate is still greater than the humans?
Absolutely. Absolutely does matter.
I don't think we can.
Because the accuracy rate...
For example, let me give you an example, hypothetical, to kind of chew on a little bit. So you have a judge, okay? This judge has ruled correctly and sentenced correctly in 90% of cases, okay? Very, very good accuracy. It's a human. He has all the cognitive empathy and things like that. But then an AI comes along that mimics him and cheats the system, if you will, gamifies it. And in the same amount of time, 40 years, it has a 99% accuracy. Why are we willing to sacrifice that increase in accuracy just because one's a human, one's a machine?
You're operating like you're from the future in the present in that. So like what's happening, and my test is trying to indicate why that my example is trying to indicate why that's bad, because your accuracy rate in testing is not necessarily indicative of your accuracy rate in application.
Sure.
So in order to justify it, you would need those to be equivalent. You don't know that it's equivalent. You can only justify. You test, and then you get like this consistent rate inside of the test. But then when you use it in application, unless you're doing like a hermeneutic approach where you're constantly reevaluating.
Where again, it's a real world application. So how I imagine it works, right, is that you test it in the black box in the white room, so to speak, right, in the blank slate test, and then you implement it in the real world to a limited extent. You see how it works in the real world. You see how it works over time, over a period of time. If that accuracy rate holds up, what's the problem?
There's no problem if it holds up, but we won't know whether or not the usage of it actually holds up until after we use it. So it's not justification.
That's why you limit the testing at first. You don't just throw out all the systems and you means test it, right?
Sure, and also like the other question is, because we're thinking of this like AI already has this concept of an antagonistic system of approach. What happens if, say, the enemy does have an AI? Because the AI are way more accessible. Using AI is way easier than getting the necessary arms to win this. You create something that is trying to determine what real threats are. I get an AI that is scanning the data of who you have targeted, what is true about them. It learns what your method of determination is. We learn how to schizophrenize. We learn how to make it so that everything we are doing breaks your system. Now you're in a fucking cat and mouse game with this like question of determination, and you never know whether or not your data is
that's
usually how
applicable
it
regardless
goes.
of whether you have AI or not. This is just spy games, right? This is just how
I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is that it corrupts the data. You will never know whether or not you have actually created a model that is accurate because it is constantly changing.
It's not the same thing though, Wick. You like part of the thing that we keep talking about and we keep focusing on is just how much faster it allows things to accelerate. So when so if there is a mistake and we act on this mistake, we're acting on a mistake many more times over, much more quickly than prior. So the thing about AI is that can it make war less of a humanitarian crisis? Sure, but in all instances where we're putting lives at stake, mistakes are horrible. Mistakes aren't just oopsies; they're people dead. And by the time we can catch it and correct it, when we're doing it at this much of an accelerated pace, it's a lot worse than it was before. So the good that comes with it is really cool, but the bad that comes with it is like really bad.
Exponentially worse.
But here's the thing: you're assuming that these AIs are just allowed to go with no monitoring, no adjustments. That none of this happens, right? That's not the case, right?
No,
that's
I'm
not. The case
I'm just saying that
and we've implemented successfully. Like data entry jobs are going away. Right? Data entry, data analysts, things like that, they're going away because companies with millions and billions on the line have adopted these systems that, again, have made them more money. It's working.
Right?
Yeah, no disagreements. Working. There's literally no hedge fund managers at all anymore. They're all gone.
It also depends, right? Like
really
the model drift problem really depends on how many variables you're looking at. Right, or looking for, right? So like the variables that we use, we're building up like actionable intelligence reports for like what we're gonna go in is, under 10, like between 7 and 10 is gonna be the data fields that we're looking at before we're gonna like, without any AI, we're just human beings, we're gonna look at 7 to 10 fucking main points for our variables that are gonna determine whether or not we go raid a compound, whether or not we go fucking kill or capture, and 7 to 10 fucking data points like as variables is such a fucking small number that your model drift is not going to be that much because you're looking at the same you're looking at a very basic model, right? You don't need a bunch of crazy thing. If you're getting into fucking like a lot of this stuff where you're calculating like probabilities for like financial stuff and over, these are so many variables, which is going to have more model drift. Like, and when you're doing these other bigger, larger models, you're going to have more model drift. With something that has very few variables that
you have thousands of data entries that you have to search within,
much less likelihood of model
the variables.
That's not an issue, but at the same time with this many variable points, your whatever program that you're using, right, whatever algorithm, whatever metrics, whatever model, right, is going to be able to tell you how it came to the conclusion based off the variables that you gave it. It's not going to take a long time to work through that. It's a very basic small amount of variables.
When we're talking about warfare and we're talking about doing data entry or like money management sector, the types of variables that we're using are radically different. Errors mean way different things. The value sets are not nearly as cut and dry. When we're talking about data entry and money, everything is pretty fucking fixed.
Yes, and
there's nothing that can really change what any of the data means.
The things that we're looking for are very cut and dry. It is very black and white. It is just what's the probability or what's the percentage of like we're going to have a high amount or low amount of civilian casualties or collateral damage. Like what's the probability of how many people are in there that we don't have accountability of, right? And like we do all this.
It's not cut and dry. Those variables are impacted by all kinds of things.
Yes,
the amount of people in an area can be impacted by unpredictable things.
Versus unactionable intelligence. So when we have actionable intelligence, that means we've had people or drones or whatever surveilling that place for a long time, monitoring who in, who out, how many in, how many out, likelihood of people that haven't come in or out, and we're getting these things with humans, and that can be done. Like, so these are very basic things. Like, these are very, very basic factors that we do on a human level, okay, all the fucking time to make sure that we have accountability. And that actionable intelligence means that like we have such good data sets on this. We have enough data and enough evidence and enough like knowledge of the whereabouts, surroundings, and pros and cons that could happen during the operation that it's pretty much a green light.
Yeah, well, what happens when the actual intelligence is wrong?
Very rarely. Very rarely, because like this
I
is
mean,
The same thing that happens with it
Actually,
without
a lot of
AI.
these
The
for,
same
for raids
thing.
and compounds and stuff. You have people that have been living across the street for months, dressed in plain clothes, fucking watching a target for months. You'll have like a team of people in a fucking apartment doing 24/7 surveillance on a compound. This is
Samantha,
like something all the time.
that does not happen every time.
Can I check with so Samantha, you're obviously not anti-human involvement. You think that there's some parts of that the human involvement is necessary. Parsing through the data is something that's not realistic. Getting the intelligence is very much so, or sorry, it's not realistic for humans to do. It's very realistic for humans to get to gain the intel. Do you think that it would be bad to replace surveillance and reconnaissance with these technologies?
No, we're implementing surveillance and reconnaissance, like AI, into surveillance and reconnaissance.
I'm
We're
saying
having
complete
Yeah.
replacement, complete
Yes,
removal of
miss
humans.
shit all the time, and especially when you're looking at certain like types
Well,
of
it
video
depends,
feeds from
I think.
drones, right? Where like we're not going to be able to pick up like 12 pixels out of place that's like a building or this or that. Where AI is going to be better equipped to do that on a more consistent basis, right? And then like people can go over the data after that based off of the outputs that they get and the metrics of how it came to that conclusion. But no, at the end of the day, like I think that surveillance should be impacted by AI and reconnaissance. Like we're putting these into drone footage. Like I said, we're having these in tanks. We're having these in different missile systems as well as target acquisition, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go against that. I guess what I'm trying to get a suss out, and maybe the full question is more important, which is how deep are you interested, or how much would you like to remove human intervention? If you could strip it down to its to the knife's edge, right where it should be, how much human intervention, how much AI, if AI were to be progressing at the rate that it currently is for, say, the next 5 years, where would you want to be in 5 years?
I don't think I would trust an AI for
I'm interested in
something
Samantha, because
else.
Samantha's got more behind the scenes on this.
One, it's not developing at such a rapid rate as people think, but at the same time, removing our people, like when we're in a war and we're talking about war fighting capabilities here, removing as many of our people from being put into situations where they can be
Reallocates
killed
resources.
is a better positive outcome. I don't care about the enemy. I don't.
Just to kind of be
to
clear
whatever
here.
minimizes putting our people in danger, the better.
I just want to be clear. Like, Goat has worked with this before as well, right?
Sorry.
Within the IDS specifically, in intelligence specifically, they have plenty of behind-the-scenes knowledge as well.
I wasn't trying
Yeah.
to. I wasn't try. Okay, I'm inaccurate in what I'm trying
I
to
now
say.
know
Then
why we agree, Goat.
I want to go down a very specific line of inquiry, because Samantha, how do you feel about just dropping Hiroshima on them?
On who?
Because that's complete detachment if we don't care about the enemy.
No, that's not, because I don't care about the enemy. I stated earlier in very, very clear terms that I care about minimizing civilian and unneeded casualties and unwanted deaths from, like, every goat fucking child molesting terrorist can get fucked. Okay, I don't give a shit.
Okay, so if no, this is interesting. So how do you feel? Let's say we were to go in, and instead of trying to positively identify terrorists and bomb areas with them, we just went in there, we grabbed all people that were willing to leave the area and said, hey, you're either with Hamas or us, get in the car, we're about to nuke this entire place.
It was called the initial, like, takeover of Fallujah, right? We dropped a bunch of fucking pamphlets from PSYOPs for 7 days, said, you leave Fallujah, anybody left here after 7 days, we are going to consider an enemy combatant, and we are just going to kill you.
How do you feel about it?
I don't care. They're good. If you don't want to die, and we are warning you that, hey, if you don't leave this area because it's so infested with fucking terrorists and you're going to die, if you don't leave, that's on you. I'm fine.
I got a comment. Wait. I got a comment on that because sometimes people don't leave because of other reasons, which are not like supporting Hamas. For example, a very good example is from Ukraine. People were when they were evacuating from their houses, okay, and going through big roads to a different city, they got bombed. They got bombed in those roads. Okay, so people who are in the evacuating town are thinking, okay, even if I evacuate, I'm gonna get bombed anyway. So why should I leave?
Same
So like
situation in
there are
Gaza,
like
right?
lots of well, I assume yes. Well, it's a bit different though, because I think it's Hamas is like way more face to face with them. Like they communicate with the people that stay there. But basically, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's mostly the case. Or
I mean,
actually, I have no idea. I don't have the numbers.
I mean, people might
Well,
not have the means to leave either, but I
But it's
wanted
very
to just,
probable.
before we got too far off from it, I actually wanted to, the one thing that I agree with Samantha on is that when it comes to what we should apply AI to as much as we possibly can is surveillance. I am, by all rights, a surveillance expert. In my state, I'm one of the top in certain surveillance equipment setups and maintenance and all of that. AI is really, really good at identifying people. I've even tested some of the newer systems that came out 2 or 3 years ago. Me wearing a hat, not wearing a hat, somebody who looks similar walking next to me. This shit is very, very good. And all it takes for a human to confirm this is a quick glance. This is what we should be utilizing AI the most for if we're concerned about minimizing casualties, rather than say acquiring appropriate targets.
This is a part. No, but like this is a part of what goes into acquiring a target. Like this is part of the data that they're feeding.
I'm saying I don't
things.
disagree with that part.
So what is the part you disagree with? Because again, we can look at with a model like that is subject to much of the same manipulation dangers as anything else, right? So why are you okay with it in that instance, but not okay with it in the instance of collating the data and putting all these data points together to produce a target list?
Because of how easy it is for a human to immediately confirm that the conclusion is gotten to by the correct means.
Again,
when it comes to surveillance,
if the output of this AI, and I don't know this is the case, to be clear, so I'm just speculating.
It's quite a jump.
But if the output,
quite a jump, like
no, if the output
50,
here,
50 a year and 100 a day, it's quite a jump.
If I may finish, if the output is here's a target, here's the reasons we think this is a valid target. Here's an image of them buying guns. Here's them using guns to kill this kid. Here's them parading this kid's body through the street. If they had a list of reasons, right, that they have decided that this is a valid target, that someone could look over, just really quick glance and verify, yep, that's a kid. Yep, they're murdering him. Yep, they're parading him through the street.
Metrics.
Would that be okay?
If those are the metrics in which we want
but
to
it's
know,
easy
like,
to
hey,
overlook
is this person doing this? Is this person doing that? This is what makes up an acceptable target. Then this is really just using AI enhanced surveillance to come to the human determination that this is a valid target. Then that's fine. It's very hard to corrupt these data points because when you have AI evaluating whether this person is or not, you have like their base photo that it's learned off of, and can identify it visually for the human to go, yep, this is operating correctly. It doesn't take any time to do this. I'm talking like less than 5 seconds. You can look and confirm, so yep, it's doing its job right. And I don't have to sift through hundreds of hours of footage to come to this. This is a huge leg up in the surveillance game. Is somebody who has had to sift through hours and hours of footage to see which guy did a crime, and then being able to just put in the picture, a couple pictures of the person.
Theo and Tuna, do you have a problem with, if that's the case, and again, I don't know if that's what's happening, right? But Theo and Tuna, do you have a problem with this if that is the case? If they are just, here's a list of targets, here's the reason each target is being chosen because of X, Y, Z, and X, Y, and Z is, again, actionable intelligence where, or not actionable intelligence, sorry, I'm using that wrong, but actual intelligence, where they're just, okay, here's them verifying buying a gun, here's them verifying using the gun to kill a kid, here's them verifying, I don't know, parading a kid through the streets or something, right? Do we have a problem with it then?
Do you want to go through? I can give my take.
No, you take this one. I want to hear.
It depends on what you're speaking from and whether or not it's confirmable, and whether or not the person, when they're looking at that list, then is operating from a place of agency. I still think that the main thing that's bad with all of these technologies is the distance a person has from their actions. Because the more and more that I did research on this, I did find that there was this belief that drone strikes, this belief that using AI and getting further away from it reduces the trauma, and it just didn't bear out. In the research, it was actually that it felt more intimate, and because you weren't in that panic state, you didn't operate from the animal. So it was one of those things where the narrative doesn't come together. I do think that being more informed is better so long as it is understandable by the person that's getting it. The real concern I have is when we're parsing massive amounts of data and we're coming to these large strategy plans, and the person who's executing on it doesn't really understand what's happening. And I think that even if the technology starts there, even if it starts there where it's a list of reasons, it will eventually scale up, because the incentives at play inside of war are always going to get closer and closer towards exception. I need to go faster. I need to stop them. They are terrorists. There are potentially kids in that room. It's just, I don't trust that it will stay in that place.
I think what influences it the most is the fact that I assume it's because the probability that a current target is a viable target, a legit target, it gets lost in translation.
And it might not
just,
be
you don't take it into account when you approve it or not. So it's like it's not being taken into account, and that's why it's easy to make these mistakes and overlook targets that aren't actually very probable to be like an actual legit target, for example.
Part of the problem with this conversation is that we don't really have the metrics for who is being considered a target and who isn't. And this is the weird thing about this, right? Because we're saying, well, it's taking all this data. If it's determined, what we're saying is that the AI is determining these targets. We went from how many in a year? 50 in a year to 100 a day. The reason why it takes so long is because we're assessing
that's a huge jump.
The information against our values. We have certain values which have to be taken into account when we're making
that's not why it takes so long.
Well, I don't mean like our personal, like our good feelings and bad feelings.
I'll tell you why
that's not what I'm saying.
If you want to know, right?
No, Wick, give it.
Yeah. So the reason it is because a lot of times these data points are unconnected, right? So you would miss it normally if you were just a human just looking through and going through the data. You would miss them. There's like unconnected. But what the AI does is it's able to recognize these patterns and connect these pieces of information in a way that is almost instantaneous. Like it's far more quicker than the human can do. So while it would take a human a day to make all these connections, to draw that up, to make all that things, it would take the AI minutes. And that's why there's a huge difference in the number here. But
this feels a bit concerning then if we're not able to ascertain these connections in this way, but the AI is
we are. It just takes us a day instead of minutes. We're able to make these connections. It just takes us far longer.
Right. So, but we don't have any way to make sure that, just like Tuna was saying, that we're not matching the film grain rather than checking the white cell count when checking for plasma.
I don't know what they're matching. I don't know.
This is the concern that I have, is that the patterns that are being recognized aren't just something that happens to also be like we're taking correlatory data that doesn't necessarily reflect what the actual values are.
And really, the person that has to contend with that question is the person who is pulling the button. Unless you're the person that trained the model, when you're using the model to gather data and then you're parsing that data, I don't know whether or not you can even trust whether or not, or what, and I'm not saying whether you should trust it, but whether or not when you're doing it, you're gonna actually be able to interpret it and feel like you're accurately interpreting it. If I'm sitting there I'm in safety, which is great. I agree that our soldiers being safe is a good thing. That's the hardest thing to like try and bear out of this, is that I'm not trying to say America bad, put the soldiers on the ground where they can get shot. I'm trying to say when you're in that room getting this data, if it starts off interpretable, then the antagonistic structure is going to accelerate it to a point where the people applying the information are not going to actually have that much agency. They're not going to have an understanding of what they're doing, why they're doing it. because
That's
that
the
is what
soldier's
war is going to
dilemma.
push.
That's the soldier's dilemma just for forever. Your leaders, your general, your squad leader, your nation says these guys have done a bad thing. You can't know, right? You can't see it. You have to at some level trust that what your leadership is telling you is the truth, right? If they say, "Hey, this town over here is a hotbed of terrorists. We've gotten rid of all the civilians." You didn't watch them. You didn't watch them evacuate the town. You didn't watch them drop leaflets on them. You didn't see any of that. All you're being told is this is a situation. You have to go in there and execute. And again, this is soldier's dilemma. How much do you trust your leaders to give you accurate information?
It's now, though, it's leaders versus something that was made and trained by somebody else that has constantly been being fed new information.
The leader still has to make the call at the end. They do.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying even the leader, whoever is parsing the information and trying to take it in, I think that there are two most likely situations. The information gets to a place where it is not actually useful to the person making the decision, and they choose to disregard it. So then it's like, what did we spend all this time on? Or the other, which is that a person puts a level of faith into it that is disproportionate because it has gotten outside of verifiability, because you're constantly on the knife's edge. You're constantly being pushed to try and get that advantage. I don't know which one it's going to be. The latter obviously seems much, much worse, because then, as we said, the escalation of effect from will be proportionate to how fast it's gotten, how pressing we feel that the decision you're making. I just don't think that this technology, number one, I don't think that this technology is the main issue. The main issue is the standards that people are going to be applying towards war, whether or not we are always in a state of exception where the enemy is always the ultimate psychological or existential threat to us. But this is enabling it. This is not going against that trend.
To tie what you're saying and what Wick just said together, it is the soldier's dilemma, Wick. However, the AI isn't just the one giving the order. It's saying, here's your eyes now. The AI is now also your eyes. So the soldier's dilemma isn't, do I just trust what my superiors are telling me and go against my feelings? They're saying, this is what you see now. This is what you see in front of you. So you don't have your own eyes to help reflect against the order that you might feel is unjust.
You have to give it stuff from eyes to feed in to give you likelihoods.
But how much of a black box is it?
There are eyes. Yeah, black box is just like the end user shit. There's so much stuff that goes in before that, right? So your eyes and your stuff is coming from intelligence that's being fed into the machine first. It's not just fucking coming up with hey, kill this person. This is so fucking asinine. Okay, I for one have a ton of
misunderstanding.
I have a ton of
what's being said
in goat fucker GPT. Okay, I'm put that out there now.
Every time you say something like that, it just kind of lowers your credibility, because you don't really want to have this conversation. You're just
I'm having the conversation.
I don't know if you've responded actually directly to anything anybody said.
I understand how this shit actually works. In the military, how orders are coming down, how fucking actual intelligence works, how we make decisions, because I've had to fucking do it.
We're not denying.
Guess that means you don't have to engage with anything anybody says.
I'm trying.
Right.
I sat here and listened to fucking retards say that it's people.
Oh my God, Samantha!
Soldiers just want to kill civilians.
I'm not convinced you've heard a word anybody said at all.
It's just printing out a paper saying kill these Palestinian kids or kill these fucking Ukrainian. No. That's not how this shit works at all. There are so many fucking levels that has to be gone through. Once any fucking intelligence of any kind goes through, it goes through so many levels of people. They're not going to get rid of that just because some data fucking.
What part of the military were you in? Just out of curiosity, I'm guessing not communications.
I was in the army. I was infantry. I was the one that we were the ones given the orders. We understand how we get orders. I've sat in briefing rooms. I've sat in stuff I've dealt with S2 and Intel all the fucking time.
No, okay, this makes sense.
Do this all
I get it now.
Intelligence for me.
There's so much data that goes through so many fucking people. Plan of actions have to be made, because it's not just go and kill this, right? You have to make a plan of action. You have to make an op board, a fucking frago, a warno.
The infantry doesn't. The people who are in charge of it.
No, we have to. No,
it takes time.
My fucking LT is the one who has to type out the fucking frago, the warno, the op board.
Not you.
He has to do that. right? That's my direct fucking commander, right? That's only in charge of 48 people. Not like the entire fucking military is under like this, right? So like it's that low level that like the operations are done. And like so, and it goes through so many levels before it gets to him, of analysts, of fucking S2s going through it, like at the lower level, at battalion level, before it even gets kicked to a company. Then you have your own analysts that go over it, and then like you have to base things around all the other fucking circumstances. It's around like the data that you got for the actionable intel to fucking plan it all out. It's not just go kill this person. Okay, bye. That's not how it fucking works.
Nobody thought that's how it worked. Nobody suggested that. Nobody inferred it. Nobody implied it. This is kind of wild.
Definitely thinks that.
Samantha.
Point is, we all agree.
I want to create some kind of bridge to this.
We all agree that there's a human element going over this data and verifying it before we make a call. Great. Look, we all are in agreement.
We knew the whole time, but we spent an hour being called retard.
You spent an hour being called retard because you're a retard.
Okay.
We're gonna live without this.
Tuna, get out your retarded. I want Tuna.
Yes. Okay. This is not just a discussion of military procedure. I respect your authority as a person that has been inside of that, which is why I was trying to cite from it. The other question happening here, for people who do care about the enemy, and I'm a fucking psycho, I guess, for caring about the enemy, the literal actual other soldiers, because I know...
We all do.
Samantha doesn't. She's expressly said she is okay with the enemy dying.
Do you define civilians of the enemy as
I said the soldiers.
Or are you...
I say the actual combatants on the other side.
So, yeah, that's why I asked.
Because people do fight for their area. You know, not every... Some people, Samantha's favorite enemy, retards, as it were, people that are just brutes, grunts, people that are on the ground, are fighting, not knowing what they're doing, and they're getting blown up because we are able to dehumanize them under the label of their banner. I think it would be much better if instead of spending all the money and all the time and all the technology we are identifying targets, assessing risks of killing them, and instead we were trying to, I don't know, go out there, get people out of the area that are under the fucking, foot and barrel of these terrorist organizations.
Let me ask you this.
The enemy's gonna use that for his advantage, yes? It's not.
Well, here's a question, Tuna.
Method.
I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, right? I absolutely am.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is even the enemy. That said, the question becomes, how much risk are you willing, how much risk to your own should you be required to take on in order to be careful about your treatment
the
of
enemy
the enemy?
civilians?
Should you,
well, depends
for example,
on the situation,
if you're in combat, should you the person shooting at you, should you tell them to stand down 3 times before you're able to fire back, or should you just be able to fire back? Right? Like, what level of risk should we require morally people to take upon themselves before they're able to strike back at an enemy?
I mean, I agree with what Theo's saying here, and that it's going to be circumstantial, because there is something much different about being a person that is defending versus someone who is aggressing, because you are the one entering a territory. So in that instance, I think the obligation of the soldier of the state that is invading is to get out of there. I don't think that you get to just kill because you've labeled somebody as a dissident in the area. You are yourself anathema to the structure of that area. Now, if you're defending and somebody comes into your house, like, I believe that if someone comes into your house and you think that they're a substantial threat, you should be able to kill. I am an American. I am not.
I don't think you answered his question.
Yeah.
Huh?
Hey guys, you guys are invading us. Can you?
You pivoted by you pivoted a bit from the original question. That's not what he asked.
No. Okay. Maybe I misinterpreted it. Can you give me
he asked what's the balance between how much are you willing to endanger your own soldiers in order to not hurt the civilian, the enemy's civilian population?
The enemy, just in general, right?
Yeah,
No,
I worded
Well,
this
the
question-
enemy,
I
it's a
worded
bit-
this question
it's-
earlier in the way of why ought a government representing their people make a decision to put their citizens at more risk for an opponent?
Exactly.
Well, that I am answering the question, but I feel like I have to answer it bimodally, because if you're in another nation, if you're in your own nation, then I think that you should be shooting immediately. You've already been aggressed on. If you're in another nation, you are the aggressor. They are going to have to communicate something that makes you believe that your life is at risk, because you are the one making them feel like their life is at risk. It's
How do
a
you
much different
decide
situation.
what the balance is? How do you decide what the balance is?
Let me ask you this.
Hey,
Let
can
me
I
let me bring this to a hypothetical for you to chew on a little bit.
Sure.
Ukraine and Russia, the war stalls out and they stop. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Russia's like, okay, we're gonna come back in 10, 20 years and we're gonna try this again, but it's not working out right now. Ukraine goes into Russia
Dedication.
to stop them from ever doing it again. Are they invaders? Technically, yes. Right? Technically, yes, they are invading Russia. But they are doing it in order to stop them, which they know they're going to do, or have very, very large reasons to believe that they're going to do. Is Russia is going to come back and strike them again, and maybe this time they're going to wipe out. They're going to actually win. Should Ukraine not do that because they're being invaded? They're invading. So do they have a moral obligation to wait for Russia to strike again before they invade, or can they just invade right away?
No, McCuck, I don't think that invasion is the right way to do it. I think that you should be spending all of that time building alliances with other nations in order to become more resilient and win if they were to. I genuinely believe
I have a better.
I genuinely
Sorry,
believe that your measure when you believe that somebody, like, I wouldn't, as the United States, invade North Korea, invade China, invade Russia, just because I know that they are enemies that want and would, if given the opportunity,
so you get
actionable
intelligence okay, that China is going to strike the bases near Taiwan to prevent the U.S. from being able to respond when they invade Taiwan. It's actionable. Like, you're pretty sure. You have a 90% certainty that this is going to happen. Do you just not strike? You just have to wait for them to
transgender
fire?
pilots in a bunker in Colorado to deal with it, okay?
There's a really interesting other framing of the same question that you asked, Wick. How much disregard can we have for the enemy, putting our troops' safety first when we're engaging with them, before we're committing the same kinds of atrocities that we're angry with them for doing?
Well,
That's the
if
$1
you're ever
million
targeting
question.
civilians, like, on purpose,
it's the same question, right? Just framed.
Well, I don't think there
Yeah.
is. It depends on the target. If it's the enemy
It's
combatants and military targets, I don't think there is. I don't think there's much consideration you need to place on those. You want to make sure that the enemy targets, the military targets, are gone. Now, when it comes to civilians, it's a whole different ballgame. That's a very different answer, right? I think that even in the cases where there is a significant risk placed upon a soldier if they are trying to prevent civilian casualties, I think it's beholden on the soldier to take that risk in order to lessen civilian casualties. It doesn't have to be 100%, right, that you have to take that risk, but there is much more care that you have to give when civilians are involved than when it's strictly military. So if I was on, for example, if I wanted to strike, if there was a Hamas training camp, okay, there they go and they do those monkey bars and all those things. You've seen the obstacle courses and things that they have. You know what I mean? If I don't give a shit. I'm napalming the thing. I'm nuking it from orbit. It's gone, right? They're just not there. But if that training camp is in the middle of a city, then yes, I have to be more surgical with it. I do believe.
Yeah.
I think I'm of the same mind of Tuna. If it's wrong for them, it's wrong for me. Given the same circumstances, bad is bad, and just because I think I'm right doesn't make me right in doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then again, you have to face the consequences in case the enemy does not have your same moral values.
It was just like earlier when we said if the enemy is going to use chemical weapons, I'm not justified in using chemical weapons back against them. It is upon me to then showcase to the other people who are going to follow the rules to say, look, they're not following the rules. Can you follow the rules with me in shutting down these people who aren't doing it?
I want to
is
give an
why-
example here. I want to give an example.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is Israel inevitably going to win or lose? It's going to be whether or not, I'm talking in the end, not just whether or not Palestine will be taken over, but whether or not they are still going to be in good standing at the end of this conflict. It's going to be whether or not the rest of the world powers, which in collective are making a decision on whether or not they like Israel, they're going to... How would it matter?
Why?
Because you would...
The world has less influence on Israel than you think. Okay, you're overly exaggerating how Israel cares about the world. Okay, I'm not saying that's zero. I'm not saying that's zero regard. I'm saying that the world can decide whatever it wants.
You know what happens when Israel goes off leash? We have the 6-day war all over again. Okay, so like,
yeah.
So like, here's the deal: Israel doesn't give a shit what you think, what fucking China fucking thinks, what most of the Middle East, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They do care what the United States thinks. But only to a certain extent.
Yeah, do you know how much they gave a fuck what the United States think? Yeah, because like the United States after the 6-day war was like, okay, come on Israel, give it back. You've defeated them all. And like Israel went back on America's leash. Okay, this is why they play nice. It's not just because like we support Israel, but because we work in tandem, because like this is what you do with allies. But at the end of the day, Israel would say, fuck you, America, we're doing what we want at any fucking moment. And the second America pulled support, do you think Israel...
Especially if it's in
danger... Hold on, I want to interrogate...
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Tuna, you started something that everyone interrupted you, and I'm really curious, because you started to think that So you stated, and I want to interrogate this, because I think you're wrong, is that the winning or losing will be based on how the world regards them at the end of this. Or based on how the world regards them. Why?
Because how the world regards them at the end of this is going to affect where they are inside of international trade. It's going to affect whether or not they are on the side of global capital. And global capital is the thing that is going to... Say it again?
Look at Russia. It still seems to be standing, although it has all the sanctions in the world.
Yeah, because they have oil. Well. They're a massive nation. There's a lot more going on there, a lot more raw resources.
Israel can sell weapons to other countries to make money. I mean, there's tons of ways.
Yeah,
there are tons of ways to deal with sanctions. Okay, I mean, like the whole world isn't like this.
No, let me.
Israel would not survive.
Okay,
Israel would not survive if the United Nations did not play with them.
Tuna,
will.
Hold on. I want everyone to shut up right now. Shut up, everyone, shut up. I want to walk through this with you, Tuna. What do you think happens? A month from now, everyone decides, you know what, this is too much. Israel, stop, or we're going to sanction you. Or we're all going to turn your back. So not only do they lose UN support, which they never had, right? But the U.S. sanctions them as well. Everyone turns against them. What does Israel do?
What does Israel do?
Yes, what does Israel do in that situation? They have been abandoned by all their allies. They are standing alone. They believe that everyone around them wants them dead. What does Israel do?
They either try and find more allies from a different place and create new allegiances,
China, Russia,
or they just ride out the war.
What do you mean ride out the war?
I mean, like, finish the job, ride out the war.
Exactly.
I mean, like, use the rest of your resources.
Yes, which means nukes, which means all these other weapons that they have heretofore not used.
Yeah.
So I guess does that not contradict your statement that whether or not Israel wins or loses will be based on the world standing it has at the end of this? I don't think that's true. I think we can look at countries...
When did this even happen in history?
I think we can look at tons of countries who, again, they're standing, whether they won or lost didn't matter on the standing on the world stage, but whether or not they won or lost meant they were still standing on the world stage, right? There's a good quote from an Israeli prime minister. I forget which one. Maybe Baby Goat can remind me. But the quote is this: "We would rather be despised and alive than pitied and dead."
Okay.
Oh, I don't remember who was that.
Those both sound like they said.
It's just one of these things. So where has this happened? I mean, Germany, Japan, Greece to a certain extent. Like when you don't play well with international capital, you face an economic depression.
I don't think those were sanctions that made Japan stop the war. Okay,
Yeah, I think it was
those weren't sanctions. That was something a bit worse.
You know,
I'm not saying that sanctions made them
Japanese
stop the war.
imperialist shit that, you know, flew
That's your only
planes into
tool.
fucking boats.
I'm not talking about stopping the war. I'm saying
Germany,
whether or not
was totally not
whether or not
Hitler's
the
rise to power trying to
If
fucking
nobody
slaughter
likes
everybody on
you,
the
you
planet.
don't automatically die. Okay, that doesn't happen.
I didn't say automatically die. I'm saying that the war is a net negative for that country in its standing going into the future. Germany and Japan were much stronger world powers before their wars, before they got on the bad side of international capital.
Yeah. And Israel could take over the Middle East in fucking 3 days if they wanted to, and then they have all the oil they want to sell to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And then the United States would swoop in and take it all because they are against the principles that would allow them when they go rogue.
Because
oil. You think that we're gonna? You think that the United States is not scared to take over the Middle East?
No, that's not what I said. It's just
the United States would hop right back into being friendship with Israel. Don't even act like that's not what would happen. That's totally what would happen.
I do not believe
Israel would solve the Middle East problem for the United States, and the United States will probably sweep in. Yes, we'll buy oil from you. We were allies for years. Sorry, we had a spat.
Of course.
Let's shake hands.
We were never against you.
Of course, because a bloodthirsty Islamic state versus a bloodthirsty Jewish state would be
they're not bloodthirsty.
Such a huge difference.
Retard
shit.
If they took over that entire area, it would require them engage in something we would describe as bloodthirsty.
Self-preservation.
Invading Syria, like you realize what that would take.
What are you wanting?
You guys realize how much the Middle East hates. You guys really don't know how much the Middle Eastern countries hate Jews.
I know how much they do. I know how much they do. I know how much they do.
You really
I'm not saying.
Okay, gang.
Whatever.
It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, this
it's
is
been
kind
2
of
hours. I am tired. We're gonna have closing statements, and then we're gonna probably end it because you've all been. Look, I wish I had brought AI panelists on today. I think it would have been better. The AI would have been better than the humans, and they will replace you one day. One day, my dream is to replace you all with AI. To replace myself with AI, and I can just let the AI run, and the money come in. Gang, if you've liked this content, if you've enjoyed what we've been talking about today, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're following me on Twitch or on Kick, hit that follow button. If you want to support the channel, sub to the channel like Rora did. Rora, thank you for that sub. Zephyr, thank you for the bits. Cryborn, thank you for the super chats. Super chats, bits, subs, all these things help me grow. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to give everyone here a closing statement, last thoughts, and where we can find you. Be concise, if you will. We're going to start with Samantha and do the opposite of how we did. So Samantha first, and we'll end with Dio here. Samantha, go ahead.
I think that AI could be a good thing in the future in reducing the amount of civilian casualties and unwanted deaths. I think it could help keep our people safe while decimating the enemy, as we should be doing, all while still reducing civilian casualties and unwanted deaths. I think that it's going to help, and we should look into doing it and try doing the right way and stop being fucking scared of some like weird, not gonna happen Terminator fucking future where everybody's programming AIs to kill minorities. That's not gonna happen. Stop being fucking retarded. Just be fucking normal, please.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Samantha Savage, Twitter, Samantha Savage, Kick, Samantha Savage, fucking, and I think I'm still on Odyssey from time to time.
Okay, thanks for being here. I really appreciated you. Drazi, go ahead.
First I just want to say I'm really happy that I could finally be on a panel where everybody got along and agreed. It was pretty cool. I'm Elder Drazi. I haven't for the last few days, but I've been streaming a lot more on Kick and YouTube because a lot of stuff I can't do on Twitch. So if you want to follow me on there, it's been really fun. We've got a lot of people in chat lately. It's been a good time. You can follow me on Twitter, all that shit too. But just my last thought was this actually was really cool because I no longer have to wonder what it would be like if I was on a panel with Demon Mama. I feel like I got the exact same experience. So thanks for having me. Tuna, you deserved better tonight, buddy. I swear to God.
God, it's good. It's good, man. Whatever.
Well, thank you.
And oh, I'm sorry. I was very well behaved. I held my tongue so well tonight. You have no idea.
Drazi. We'll
Proud
talk
of you.
about it later. Drazi, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Kick.
I really appreciate you being here tonight. Go.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, there was this. Basically, I'm pro AI technology for it to advance and like prosper. But then again, I think we need to put lots of resources that make sure that the wrong people won't get this technology, because it's very cheap, okay, and it's much easier to engineer in comparison to other types of weaponry, and it doesn't require actually much from the person who is controlling the AI. Like there's so many places that you can use it, and for the wrong reasons. And I think people need to make sure that doesn't happen, and probably using UN protocols and laws and stuff in the countries that have AI technologies, we can do that. But well, I think that's it. And you can find me somewhere in Jerusalem. I don't have anything online, but yeah, thank you guys. I'm against shitting on everyone, so let's not do that. Come on, please.
Well, thank
We're
you.
all smart people here. We're all awesome. We agreed on many things, although you feel like we didn't. We actually did. And let's respect everybody.
Thank you for being here.
So,
Where
yeah.
can people find you? Go.
Yeah, like I said, somewhere in Jerusalem.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Next up, Tuna Chip.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Wick. My only closing thoughts are moral authority comes from moral behavior. Moral behavior comes from agency. The less agency we have, the less that we'll be able to describe ourselves as a moral authority in any geopolitical conflict. Outside of that, you can find me on motherfucking twitch.tv/tunachip. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Kick. It's all pretty easy. Actually, it's just slash. Did I say Tuna Chip TV? No, .tv/Tuna Chip. It's all just straight Tuna Chip. Out of that, that's it, man. Sorry about the aggression. I don't
be sorry.
deal
Don't
well with
apologize.
passive aggression, but it's what happens.
fine.
I hate
Yeah,
that
don't
fucking
be-
vibe.
I don't know if
sorry.
this is
We'll
possible.
fight.
It's the
We'll fight
fog.
today.
It's the fog of debate.
Yeah, we will fight today, and tomorrow I'll
First of-
buy you beer and flowers. Like
First of
it's
all-
fine.
First of all,
Aw.
average debate enjoyer, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Gang, follow in his footsteps. He got moderated right out. What did he do? I see he gives me 10 gifted subs, and then his messages get deleted. What is going on? Gang, I don't know what's going on. But anyway,
The
continue
$50 purge.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I'll have to look into it. Theo, go ahead.
My closing statements are pretty similar to a lot of people. You know, AI is a tool, and tools can be used for good or bad. As far as I've seen from the current conflict, they've been being used poorly, and I think that is bad. I also think that we need to create a racist Terminator AI, and that was all what I was saying the entire time.
It will create
and
itself.
you can find me.
Where
You can
people
find me
you?
on Twitter at literally Canada, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, thank you for having me on.
Why do I have
The
so many
Terminator.
Canadians in my space? I don't understand it.
I'm not
Honestly-
Canadian.
Oh, good. Thank God.
It's just the name.
It's just literally Canada.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Samantha, are you still streaming after this? Samantha
That I
X
am.
Savage, is that it?
Yep.
Okay. We'll write in Samantha. Remember to
Oh
tell
my
her
God,
this
thank
is
you.
a hate raid and spam the emotes and all that. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, gang. Tomorrow we're gonna have a much more calm, sedate discussion with real Socrates and quibbles over coffee.
Oh, that's gonna be calm.
I don't know if
Yeah,
it'll be
okay.
super
I'm
calm,
kidding.
But Socrates had some real issues within some of the things that Quibbles Over Coffee was saying about Israel and Palestine, and so they're going to have a heart-to-heart. Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have the Mantle. Last week we had women talking shit on the men. It's the boys' turn this time, gang. We're gonna have the men talking shit on the women, and I've invited quite the cast of characters: Counterpoints, Smeth, Prime Kai, Ali, a few others. It'll be
Let's
fun.
go.
That will be
Gonna
great.
make somebody burn your house down, dude. What the fuck?
And then on Thursday we have Admiral Gibbs versus Seventh. So that will be fun too. So anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Bye.
Awesome.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Wave while the
Bye.
countdown goes. It takes a while for the countdown to count down. Okay, it takes forever. And here we go. Bye.
All right.